Dark destinations.
These may be end times, night creature. Why would a few more casualties trouble me?
Because their blood will join yours.
A radio drama anthology.
You are wrong.
How you figure? Every merc on Mongo is hunting you down.
Not you. Your partner. He said I didn't have a ray gun.
Full cast performances set in the haunted corners of the globe.
Darkness is coming for you.
That's the fear that haunts me. Sleep! Ah!
Dark Destinations by Father Malone at weirdingwaymedia.com.
Weirding Way Media. Welcome back to Midnight Viewing, the horror anthology podcast, where this season we're taking a look at George A. Romero's 1980s series, Tales from the Darkside. Sharing the Midnight View with me are the Culture Cast, Chris Stashu.
He was an absentee landlord.
And the Projection Booth's Mike White.
Hello, Detroit, you're on the air. Hello.
Tonight, we are taking a look at two episodes from season one, though I guess everyone wants to talk about one in particular. Those are The Devil's Advocate and The Distant Signals. Now, The Devil's Advocate is from season 2. It is episode 7. It originally aired on November the 10th, 1985. This was written by George A. Romero, so watch yourselves, gentlemen. And it was directed by Mr. Mike Cornick. This one stars Jerry Stiller. It's the tale of a late-night talk radio host whose bitterness and anger with humanity make him the perfect mouthpiece for hell. All right, who wants to go first? Have at it. Chris, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Luther Mandrake, and this is InfoWars. Jesus Christ. This is, I think, so far for me, probably the best thing I've seen in the show. Jerry Stiller is off the wall as one of the worst people we've seen on this show, if not the worst. Some of the things that he says are beyond the pale. I like that we finally have, by my approximation, the first good radio DJ bit on any of these anthology shows that really, I think, works. Is it a little on the nose what happens at the end with the moo-ha-ha, I'm the devil and you've been my best helper? Like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, show. No shit, that's what was going on. So it feels a little like the show thinks that we're dumb and obvious with a name like The Devil's Advocate. But I think Jerry Stiller is so good that I just enjoyed this episode immensely, and I couldn't help but thinking about all of the people that are like this now, unironically, as opposed to this character being written, I guess, ironically. I mean, for a specific purpose to be an asshole who gets his comeuppance, but take Luther Mandrake and put in any one of the Alex Jonesian friends and any one of those dudes, and it's like, look, see, this is what's going to happen with them in the end. They're going to be on the old switchboard in hell.
How about you, Mike?
I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit here on Midnight Viewing. When we record these episodes, we actually record them back to back. I won't say if this was the first one or the second one. You're going to have to figure that out. But a few weeks ago, I was telling you guys that of these 4 episodes we watched, I really liked 3 of them. This is the 4th. I did not like this episode whatsoever. You were talking about how George was dumbing it down for us. I didn't understand what the hell was going on. As far as at the end, okay, so I guess he's being tortured, but yet he's the devil's advocate. So is he promoting that? Like, I don't understand. And that people are talking to him without a radio. He's now like a DJ taking calls from all times and all centuries. I didn't understand how it goes. I thought that the makeup effects were pretty nice, especially the way that they build on him as they're going along, to a point where I was like, oh, his face looks a little different. I thought that was nice and subtle. But otherwise, I just didn't jive with this one.
Okay, near as I can figure, what has happened is this man who has spent, the latter part of his life spreading hate amongst the populace is now dead and has taken his place in hell as a voice in people's heads telling them that they're hopeless. So these people don't have radios. They're confused by the idea of radios in some cases. They just hear a voice talking to them and they're talking back. So that part of it is really, really good and actually really scary.
Now that makes a lot more sense. That might make me reevaluate this episode, thinking the whole voice inside their heads thing. That I did not connect with.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cheese going on here. I sent you fellas a link to what Ben Stiller, son of Jerry Stiller, seemed to think of this episode, where he parodied it on the Ben Stiller show, this 5-minute, late night, low budget horror. I agree with you, Chris, however, that Jerry Stiller is fucking going for it here, and I love him. There's a scene where he's just reacting to a caller, where he's just making fun of him by gyrating and making faces and stuff. It's fucking hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. It usually wouldn't work with most actors here, but he made it great.
I mean, yeah, Jerry Stiller, he's going to be, he's always swinging for the fences. I mean, this is him as George Costanza's dad at his most unhinged. I know it's not his line, while he does say it eventually, but while we were watching this episode, I was just like, spread me down throughout so much of it.
This also reminded me of a Night Gallery episode, Flip Side of Satan, with Artie Shaw, or Artie Johnson,
Yes.
not Artie Shaw, but Artie Johnson from
Artie
season
Johnson.
2.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
what this
I
made
knew
me
it
think
reminded
of.
me of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what when I think of that episode, I think this is the better version of that episode.
Of course, I was thinking, and I was curious as far as when talk radio was out compared to this, because it reminded me of that. And that was a weird shift in America when radio came back, and it came back as talk radio. I mean, it never left, I know, but just this whole thing of these evil DJs. And I think that's what Bogosian was kind of, talking about in talk radio. But I mean, this is, I guess Imus was on the air, though not what he eventually became when he put on the C-SPAN cameras or whatever that was. But I mean, this is prime Rush Limbaugh. I mean, gosh, both of these episodes this week and last week, I'm talking about my stepdad. My stepdad used to listen to fucking Rush Limbaugh all the time, which meant I had to listen to him. Drove me up a fucking wall, and he just got worse and worse as the years went on.
Yeah, Romero himself had a bit of a fascination with talk radio because it has been around forever and ever and ever. Yeah, it plays a big part of his 1976 film, Martin. The lead character of Martin uses a talk radio show to call in and, spill his feelings. And it's actually really chilling at the end. Incidentally, that talk show host in Martin was played by Mike Gornick, who directed this episode. He's got a great, he's got a really great radio voice. In fact, at the end of this episode, the voice of Satan telling Mandrake he was doing a great job is also Mike Gornick.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he does have a great radio voice. It's been so long since I've seen Martin, but I remember loving it.
Yeah, it's no doubt George Romero's best movie. Not my favorite, but you can tell it's obviously, his best. Anyway, and yeah, I keep talking about it lately, and somehow I keep not watching it. I'm gonna have to do that later tonight.
It's coming soon to a CultureCast episode near you in September, baby.
Oh my God, that's right. Okay, yeah,
that's why you keep thinking about it. That's why you've never seen September.
Oh,
coming soon.
Find that lost cut that was being sold on eBay, and then somebody bought it, and they won't release it now.
I don't know what's up. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that in the episode, but if said print exists, then I please need to see it before I die. For Christ's sake, somebody get the fuck on that. Like 3 hours, 4 something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think 4 hours. Yeah.
Okay. Here's a couple of things I thought about this episode. First of all, it's kind of really interesting choice to be eating a bowl of pea soup while you're performing on a talk show.
When you're hungry, you're hungry.
Right, but soup? I mean,
well, what else is going to eat? An apple?
Yeah.
carrots.
Soup is very quiet
and
if you know how to
crackers?
do it right.
Okay. All right. You've got.
You
Okay.
put the whole spoon in your mouth and you just turn it upside down and the soup falls onto your tongue and you pull it out and there's no sound.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm not. Yeah. You're right.
Do you want him to be eating Ruffles? Extra
100%
crunchy?
scientifically accurate here.
I want him to be eating soft tacos. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Mandrake is a prick, right? Like everyone who calls in, no matter what, he just slices them down, right? Which a couple things going on. His show is called The Devil's Advocate, right? So by the very nature of that title, he's going to be adversarial. So what are these people calling in without hoping to achieve? He's literally doing his job by telling them that they're wrong. You know, at least on the night gallery there, Artie Johnson like had an affair with like his station manager's wife and it ended up with a suicide or something like that, right? Because here's this guy's crimes. He's being a dick to people, right? But he kind of has got some legitimate beef. He rattles off a list of things that have happened to him recently, or you know, over the course of his life, where his mom died in a plane crash because the crew sold like faulty lug nuts to them, and then his dad died on a union picket line. And then his wife is currently in a coma because of
3 years.
aesthetic snafu. And then his son was killed by a drunk driver. You know what? The fact that he's on his feet is pretty okay by me. And the fact that he's just being a dickhead on the radio doesn't mean he should go straight to hell, I don't think. I think this guy he's doing okay.
He's not crawling on the ground begging for mercy.
No, because this isn't like talk radio. This isn't like Barry Champlain, who is just a miserable fucking human being who, you know, wants to harm other people, like because he's so like dissatisfied with himself. Like, so I don't know. I mean, maybe this is just a case of this being Tales from the Dark Side, and sometimes this is what you get, motherfuckers. That's the world we live in, but you know, feels a little lopsided.
I mean, again, with something like the last episode that we did with Halloween Candy and Satanic Satanic Piano. I mean, the first episode was pretty mean, and then this episode's pretty mean. I mean, this is, does he deserve to become like Satan's ghoulish radio DJ? Probably not. But, and it's also essentially implied, it's not essentially implied, it is more or less said outright, that the devil is the one who did all of this shit to him to make him like this. So it's like, wait a second here. This isn't even, you're not even playing fair. I mean, who expects the devil to play fair? By
the way, nobody's calling in with any real problems. It's
no.
all petty bullshit, right? So, like, who cares? It's not like people are calling in and going, like, I don't know what to do. My child is dying. And he's like, fuck you and your child. Like, why don't you smother him with a pillow? It's not like that.
Right.
No, it's like, you're a watchman. You just like to sit and watch people. It's like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? Dude, I mean, but again, like you said, Father Mom, like, I understand what his problem is. This guy has had like every bad thing happen to him ever is what it feels like. Like, this show's moral compass always points in a very strange direction, and rarely does it point the direction I would assume it's going to point. And this is one of those episodes where it's like, sure, he deserves to be damned to hell forever. You're right. All right. Sure. I'll follow that.
This show has inherited a lot of the bitterness of the original Twilight Zone.
Totally.
The kind that makes Burgess Meredith, just for being a bookworm, break his glasses. Like that spirit lives beating hard and strong here in Tales from the Dark Side.
But this show would go one step further and have Burgess Meredith be blinded.
That's true.
Yeah.
He falls down and just blinds himself by accident. That's how this show would go, because this show pushes it just that little notch more, which I appreciate, obviously. Like, for me, this show pulls the trigger when it needs to. And look, well, while Luther Mandrake doesn't maybe deserve to be damned to hell, and the context of this story, this guy's kind of a piece of shit. I mean, he's maybe not the biggest piece of shit, and it turns out that the devil was not playing fair, but
when does he ever?
Right, exactly.
What I really
down
like
to Georgia, that's when.
What I really liked in the episode is it begins with Mandrake arriving and he's complaining. He's apologizing for being late and complaining for the reason, which is there was a dead guy outside his apartment. And it's him, like, in the end. Like, I just thought that was very nice. Yeah.
Very
but
nice.
I also see all of the cheese that was involved in the episode with him just sort of railing against the problems of America and, you know, that switchboard that glowing thing that was not great, you know?
Mhm.
And I wrote in my notes 2 things. These makeup changes are not subtle. And then I also wrote, Wolfman.
Wolfman Stiller, baby.
Yep. He was gotten pretty wolfy pretty quickly. Like, it's, like I said, not a subtle effect, but I don't know. Ultimately, I like this episode.
I like that this show has spent a lot of time getting these like old school actors into like ugly makeup, like Jerry Stiller, Eddie Bracken. Like, let's just get these like classic comedic actors and make them look gross and fucking weird. Like, all right, sure, why not? Who cares?
What I love is all these old school actors are game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Chuck McCann talking to some aliens.
Mm-hmm.
The best one still, frankly. That one will stick with me forever.
As it should.
Right. That was the point.
All right, moving on. Our next episode is Distant Signals. This is season 2, episode 8. It aired originally on November the 17th, 1985. Written by Ted Gershuni. Written by Ted Gershuni from a story by Andrew Weiner, directed by Bill Travis. This one's starring a trio of spooksters. Kolchak and X-Files and Millennium, Darren McGavin, and Twin Peaks is Lenny Von Dolan, and the Ghostbusters Mayor David Margulies. This is about a mysterious businessman who reunites the creator and actor from a 50s detective series that was canceled mid-season to film a new ending for an audience not from around here. What'd you think of this one, Chris?
So Galaxy Quest, right? That's what this reminded me of. I mean, 100%. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, it's this. When I realized where this was going, I was like, oh my God, that's what this is, huh? And look, what's funny is on top of everything else, it's oddly prescient about legacy sequels and the return of like TV shows from 20 or 30 years ago. Looking at you, Lenny Von Dolan, literally from Twin Peaks.
I think he was dead by the time they returned.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, if he had been
But
alive,
still.
he totally would have been in it, right? I mean, everybody else was literally. Everett McGill showed back up and he hadn't done shit for what, a long time.
Missing in action. I remember David Lynch putting out a call. Does anybody know where Everett McGill is?
Is he alive? But, you know, with something like this, there's a lot going on here that feels very contemporary in a way that I was not expecting, but it does feel like other things that have come out since that are, I mean, for me, Galaxy Quest is the top of the pile of these kinds of things for a lot of reasons, but I actually really liked this, and I think it was really good. And look, Dave, we get to talk about Darren McGavin, Mike. What's up with that?
I know.
I was so excited. I'm like,
happy.
here we go, Darren McGavin again, just for a little bit.
Didn't even realize it was him at first. And then I was like, oh, holy shit. As soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. Yeah. I was just already tickled pink just to see Harold from Twin Peaks come back, or whatever his character's name was in Electric Dreams. I mean, he plays that creepy alien so perfectly, and he always has that otherworldly look with those like light blue eyes and the dark hair. I thought that he was perfect in that role, and I really liked just this whole thing. Yes, even though I'm a big fan of Galaxy Quest, and I know this is coming much earlier, and I kind of want to track down the Andrew Weiner Distant Signals story to read it and see how much that is, you know, how close it is to this and how close it is to Galaxy Quest, because yeah, this just felt so much like that. And I appreciated it though. And I like this whole idea of like, you know, nobody's ever going to see this other than the people on my home planet. See ya, Poochie out.
Excellent comparison there, because this reminds me of an episode of Futurama called When Aliens Attack, where aliens are going to destroy Earth unless they get the final episode of Single Female Lawyer, which is a parody of Ally McBeal, a character named McNeil. It's one of the best episodes of Futurama. It is this exact plot.
Wow, that's funny.
Who would want to watch a show in black and white, really? Who would know a network would ever air such a thing? It was the funniest fucking shit.
Yeah.
Just like
reminds me of the articles about the Ripley series I was just on.
Oh yeah, right. That did put off a lot of people, actually. Yeah, what's funny is that the Twin Peaks The Return thing like immediately sprang to mind thanks to Lenny Von Dolan's involvement here. This, in fact, could be a documentary of how that show got made, Twin Peaks The Return.
Yes.
You know? I could totally see they send some fucking total weirdo who just like, I've got gold bars, everybody, you know?
The people that I represent have lots more gold bars where that came from as well.
What'd you say about gold bars? Yeah.
It's a little weird that the show that they end up producing doesn't take place in the 70s. Like, I know that they try and age everybody down and everything, but like, if you're on that planet waiting for the next episode and suddenly you get this Darren McGavin, you'd be like, wait, what happened? Did they fall through a time warp? Like, and I'm sure those questions are valid on that planet. Like, what happened? Like, why?
Well, and I imagine they have to be kind of speaking to Darren McGavin as Mike Hammer when he played him, and years before Kolchak. I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised if I went back and watched some Mike Hammer if it was kind of cribbing from the dialogue and stuff. Just very typical gritty stuff. And I like that they finally solved the mystery. I thought that was kind of nice that we actually get to see it. I thought that they were going to keep that from us.
Yeah, I thought we did spend a lot of time at the end with the actual episode of the series. A little too long, maybe, because it's not great. It is very cliche, the long lost brother. And although I did enjoy McGavin pirouetting before he shot his brother. And then I also loved, by the way, how fucking blasé he's like, I'm your long lost older brother. Pirouette, bang, see ya. Just like saunters off into the sunset. That's the end. Hope you enjoy that, aliens.
I got to see the end of the series of the historical documents.
Yes.
It's kind of a silly episode in some ways, but in other ways, it feels like, I love that it forces in this episode, and I think this is just true in general, where creators are forced to reevaluate their past work, the kind that they've shrugged off, that it's insignificant because they did it at like an early portion of their life. But this might as well be called Comic-Con circuit as far as an episode goes, because actors and creators are so dismissive of genre work for so long, and then they realize like that's where the money is. But not only that, like that's where the genuine affection for them is. And I thought that like really came across here in this episode. Even with the bullshit psycho ending where McGavin wonders aloud if they were really aliens or not. It's like, we already know, man. I mean, it was nice to see it was nice to see the Empire State Building making a cameo in the background here, but I don't know that we needed that at the very end.
I love that monologue at the end. It was so on the nose. He punched me in the face over and over again. Just like, imagine, if you will, they were aliens.
It so reminded me of Kolchak, though, when he would posit stuff and like, perhaps this is but it was so much happier than any of the cases Kolchak was on.
I'll pull a red letter media and say that it reminds me specifically of the end of the alien autopsy video hosted by Jonathan Frakes, where he goes, listen, if you will, if this was a real alien. And it's like, where is this coming from, Darren McGavin? Oh, is this because he was given that pill? Is that why?
Yeah, that's
what was in that pill? Because he looked great in that next scene.
Nanobots. Or I heard possibly if he was an alien, there was some black goo out there that might have helped him. You become a better human because of it. It's the Prometheus strain, I think is what it was called. I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard about that. His father, the life just drains from your face. I just refuse to acknowledge any of this.
No, I'm exhaling. Well, speaking of McGavin and like how good he looks here, it was great to see that shock of red hair again. I don't know. I'm so used to seeing him from the 80s on where it was kind of a little more faded here. But here it's like, whoa, yeah, that's an Irishman right there. Yeah, I wrote down what was in those pills because I want them. This is John Harrison directing the episode, so it's really cinematic. It's really well shot, actually, on top of everything else, including the recreation of the 50s television series. The high marks all around, the writing and the direction of this episode and the acting, like overall. Like, I don't know why we've hit such a fucking hot streak with Tales from the Darkside lately. I don't want to look this fucking gift horse in the mouth or anything, but like second season, about now we'd be going, oh, I don't feel so good in any other series. So this is a bit heartening.
It's a lot heartening. Yeah, no, I'm very glad that we are having good experiences with this show because it feels like a long time coming. Especially for you and I, Father Malone, where, the original version of this show, like, once we did Tales from the Crypt, it was like, we really, like, that show was just a slog in a lot of ways towards the end. And like, we have never experienced that, the three of us, thankfully, but we got close with some of them. Was
no,
it
Mercifully, the series that we've been handling since Tales from the Crypt only run about 3 to 4 seasons. So
Yeah. 8 seasons.
yeah, exactly. That Tales from the Crypt is a beast of a series.
You lucked out, Mike. You lucked out by not having.
Yeah,
to be
you
part of
fucking
that.
did, man.
You really did. Hey, I did that show fucking twice. So
I know,
you're a
lunatic,
really.
man.
I'm the sucker for punishment. Is the reality
Wow.
on this one? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I was just looking up Distant Signals, the story, and I know, Father Malone, I think I gave you a whole collection of Twilight Zone magazines at some
Sure
point.
did.
I'm going to have to try to find those again because I think it was published initially in that, which is ironic since we're talking about Twilight Zone. 1984 in the May-June issue. And then looks like it's also in the Tales from the Darkside book that was edited by Tom Allen. So those are at least 2 places where you can get it. I was looking at a collection of his stories, Distant Signals, and other stories, and that is cost prohibitive right now, every place you look. So
I had that
you want
book.
to start at $30?
I had the book as a kid, the Tales from the Dark Side book. So I know I've read the short story, but I could not tell you what the differences are or like at this point. I'm loath to think that I actually still have it and it's in storage right now. But it's actually a fucking distinct possibility because I can imagining the cover in my mind right now.
Well, that made an impact. We're talking about the show in 2024 for a fucking reason, aren't we? I don't think anybody else is talking about this show right now. So
The
there you
Fools.
Hey, like you guys have both said, I've been enjoying this show more than I think I've enjoyed anything else we've talked about because everything has been pretty good. And even the episodes of this show that have not been great, I think are still better than a lot of the middle of the road stuff we saw in a lot of the things we watched up until this point. I mean, this show I think is just consistently good to great. I mean, there have been a couple clunkers, but a couple clunkers is not much compared to clunker after clunker after clunker, like Tales from the Crypt. Or, I mean, I want to say that wasn't Night Gallery. It was Twilight Zone 85 had some rough ones towards the end of that show. Some that are like, we don't even remember recording those episodes because they were so unbelievably bad.
Yeah, mercifully, that's not going on here. Hopefully.
No.
I feel like
No.
I'll knock on wood, I guess. And it's-
Romero, baby.
Yeah.
George
well-
A. Romero. It's the Romero of it all.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of episodes of this show, on the next episode of Midnight Viewing, we'll be taking a look at the next 2 episodes of season 2 of Tales from the Dark Side. Those are The Trouble with Mary Jane and Ursa Minor. Midnight Viewing, the horror anthology podcast, is a proud member of Weirding Way Media Group. Our theme song was composed by HP with an assist by Donald Rubenstein. Until next time, what are you working on and where can people find it, Chris Stasher?
Culturecast is the podcast that I do and can be found over at Weirding Way Media along with all the other things that I do. But that's the weekly show that I do. And I do it once a week. And I'm sticking to it. And I'm about to release episode 666, Sign of the Beast. So yeah, there you go. I'm not at 700 yet. We're getting close. It'll take another, year, but congratulations to the man here with 700 episodes because he's the one charting the course for the rest of us. But where you can find my stuff is weirdingwaymedia.com. What about you, Mike White?
I got no problem with Mary Jane. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. As for me, also weirdingwaymedia.com where you can find all the stuff that I work on. Except for one thing that Chris and I work on with our friend Richard Adam. That is Rankin on Bond, and you can get that over at our Patreons, patreon.com/projection booth or patreon.com/culturecast. That's culture with a K and cast with the C.
That's right, baby.
All
Mortal
right,
Kombat rules.
You want to stay away from having too many Ks in that name.
Boy, don't we.
Yes. And how about you, Father Malone?
Oh, same thing. Listen to Midnight Viewing. Listen to my show, Dark Destinations. Listen to HP's show, Night Mr. Walters, the Taxi Podcast. I co-host over there. And, like Projection Booth and the Culture Cast. I'm a guest over there, a bunch of things. Look those up, too. Anyway, thank you all for joining us here at Midnight Viewing. Until next time, try to enjoy the daylight. Sorry, I have a dog licking my feet.
That's how you should end the episode.